Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Coffee and Headlines, our daily get-together live on Facebook every morning at 10:30 in the morning, where we discuss and examine and share headlines, comments, questions, tips about life in Puerto Vallarta so that we can enjoy it better as an English-speaking community. We get together every day with friends that have been following the show for some months now. And we also welcome people that are new, like you. If you're watching for the first time, you can let us know that you are watching for the first time by writing the word new in your comments. That way we can give you a proper welcome. For the rest of us, it is always nice to see familiar faces from nearby and from far away. People like Karen, who's here from Minnesota, or Jeffrey, who's here from Albuquerque, or Ron, who's here from Virginia, or Eric, who's just down the street. It is really wonderful that for 35 minutes or so, we get together with one thing in common, our love for Puerto Vallarta, or our interest in our city. Today is an interesting day for news. There's more follow-up on some of the stories that we were reporting yesterday regarding cheese that is not really cheese. And the government has stepped in to stop the sales of certain brands. We're going to take a look at what has happened with that. Also, Carnival Cruise continues to make announcements that don't benefit our destination, but we'll wait to see how that goes. And there's other headlines, including some unrelated things that I found this morning that I thought were absolutely fascinating to share. Fascinating to me, hopefully fascinating to you as well. As always, if you have any important comments or questions that you want to share with everybody, please let us know by writing the letter Q before your comment so that we can make sure that we touch base on it during the show. And if not, I'm happy to take a look at it immediately after the broadcast. Well, that looks yummy. Kathleen is having a cold green smoothie in sunny hot Conchas Chinas. That's wonderful. Let's see what else. Michael wishes he was here. It's cold up north. Well, you're going to be down here pretty soon, as I recall, which will be wonderful. Steve is in Washington State. Great to see you. And Michael is in Centerville, Utah. Great to see you as well. Anna is in Punta Perula, which is, Punta Perula is south of here, if I recall correctly. I visited Punta Perula once and I thought it was a beautiful place. Let's see. Ray is new. Yay. And he loves the show. Thank you very much. It is nice to hear your comments as always. Anyhow, let's dive into the news and see what we have going on today. Well, as I mentioned earlier, Carnival, who had announced a couple of days ago that they would not start their cruises from Florida this year, have announced, according to this headline from Contralinea, that they will not come back to Puerto Vallarta until next year. We were expecting them to be back in November, but the the announcement here tells me that there will be no cruise ships docking in Puerto Vallarta or the Pacific for that matter for the remainder of the year. We remember that Carnival is the most important cruise line that visits Puerto Vallarta, so this is one of those news that is not going to be very welcome locally. I know that I'm sure that a number of business people and industries in town benefit greatly from these cruise arrivals, and it is unfortunate that they will not take place just yet. We also find out yesterday we announced that the emergency button changed its rules, or rather, the Health and Sanitary Committee that oversees these decisions for the state of Jalisco changed the guidelines for the emergency button here in the state. And this headline tells us that several mayors from different municipalities have said that there will be zero tolerance if the button gets pushed for businesses that are not following the guidelines. But what's interesting, well, two things are interesting on this news item. Number one, that the government is actually sharing information about the fact about what would happen if the button was to be pushed, which would lead me to feel, and this is totally a gut feeling, not the news, that the government anticipates that the emergency button will be pushed at some point, although they have not said when, but they are now telling us what would exactly happen. This headline that I'm sharing with you includes a little infographic that gives more information about what would happen with the emergency button. It would be activated as soon as the number of active cases increases to the number of 400. And what would be modified, the different hours in which things would be able to open, saying that all the non-essential activities will be suspended from Monday through Thursday, starting at 7 p.m. Let me read that again. Yes, from Monday through Thursday, non-essential activities would cease at 7 p.m. and resume at 6 a.m. in the morning, the following morning. Weekends, the pause would be from 7 p.m. on Friday until 6 a.m. on Monday. There would be no bus transportation, and there are some specific rules for Puerto Vallarta here. Recreational activities at night would be suspended only Sundays and Mondays, given the fact that 90% of our economy depends on tourism and 65% of our economic income is generated during weekends. There would also be a restriction to going to the beach. From Tuesday to Saturday, they would be only open from 5 a.m. to 3 p.m. and on Sundays from 5 a.m. to 10 a.m. 5 a.m. to it doesn't say a.m. or p.m. It's really weird. But again, all these guidelines are just in case. Again, it has not been made clear to us that the button is going to be pushed anytime soon. As we know, the parameters for the button get changed every Sunday when the governor gives us his weekly announcement, and we share that weekly announcement with you on Mondays. So we'll have to wait and see what happens as far as the so-called emergency button is concerned. Along the lines of these affairs, the strategic committee for the state is trying to figure out the logistics of citizen watchmen or citizen watchdogs. I don't know what the correct phrase would be in this case, but the government of our state has pretty much realized that the municipalities in the state just don't have enough manpower to supervise all the businesses that whether they're following the guidelines or not. So the government is trying to come up with a program in which they would rely on volunteer citizens that would be in charge of supervising. And I saw some guidelines at the bottom of this. This is a program that would be called Visor Ciudadano COVID-19, citizen watch person. That's what that would mean. And this would see the goals for these people would be to be mindful of what's going in your surroundings, in your neighborhood, in your workplace, on the street, in the park, in the plaza, to communicate when you find a person or a business that is not following the protocols, to take note of what protocol is not being followed, to take a photo as evidence, to share the information. There's going to be there's going to be a WhatsApp group in which you can report what's being not followed in your neighborhood, and also to be respectful of the people involved. So this probably means that the government at some point is going to bring us. Oh, that's a great description of it. Oh, great, a bunch of Karens, says Doreen. Well, Karens maybe not. I mean, I think what makes a Karen is the way the reaction takes place. If the government is saying we don't have enough people to man and to supervise what's going on in terms of businesses that are following or not following, it is fair that the government would seek volunteers that would help in the purpose of making sure that more businesses are following. Whether some people would take advantage of this and would become Karen about it, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. But I'd rather not speculate, and I'd rather just sort of wait and see what is going on with this guideline. Let me take a quick look at your reactions before we move on with the news. Did I hear that France is imposing curfews from 9 p.m.? Yes, France has entered a new state of emergency. Logan thinks that it would be great if they implemented a zero tolerance policy now rather than waiting. I absolutely agree. Mushik thinks they're moving the goalposts. I agree with that as well. Kimberly wows at 90% of income coming from tourism. I actually doubt that figure is accurate, Kimberly. But that's just my personal opinion. I couldn't tell you for a fact if that is true or not true. Sean thinks that they should get some people from Facebook, because there's people on Facebook that are always complaining. I love it. This question keeps coming up. Will the airport be closed if the button is pushed? I think we've clarified that the airport is federal zone, and as such, it will be handled by the federal government, not by the state government. So this would indicate that the airport would probably not close. The government provides so many words and so little action about protocols. Maybe, Heather, maybe not. I think one of the big problems that our government has is communicating what is actually getting done. And when the government communicates, they communicate to the press, they communicate to Facebook, and sometimes by the time the information actually gets to us, the information is either not complete or inaccurate. So it's hard to tell. The bottom line has not changed. We can only rely so much on what the government has to tell us, and we can rely greatly on what we know we should be doing to take care of ourselves. Moving on with the headlines, the federal government has announced that stadiums are reopening, but not in the state of Jalisco. The state of Jalisco will not be allowing matches to take place with people attending at stadiums, which is going to happen elsewhere in the country starting on the 16th. That would be tomorrow. but again, not in our state. We also learn, as we suspected, that the Cervantino Festival opened in Guanajuato, and it meant nothing. There is a colorful metaphor for you to learn from the paper. Valió madre. In this case, the expression means that it was worth nothing that the Cervantino um, opened. And parenthetically, it is amusing that in a country where we venerate our mothers so much, the expression vale madre, which means it's equivalent or it's worth a mother, that the value of mother is worthless. But that's just a little diversion in terms of the expression. What happened at the Cervantino in Guanajuato is that the opening was virtual, but of course, because it was virtual, nobody went. So all the businesses were business as usual. The plazas were empty, the restaurants were empty, nothing is going on. And of course, the people from that beautiful city are now lamenting the fact that their incomes are not going to be improved from this particular festival. Now, let's get back into the cheese business. Let me remind you, in case you were not here with us, yesterday, the Federal Consumer Protection Agency here in Mexico shut down the sale of several brands of cheeses because the cheeses were not made 100% with milk. Now, that does not mean that the cheeses are bad. The cheeses taste fine, they're beautiful, they're wonderful, they're exactly the same cheese you've been buying. But because some cheese manufacturers apparently didn't take the new guidelines seriously, the government came in and said, no, 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 no. If you put a label that says your cheese is made 100% of milk, your cheese actually has to be made 100% from milk. So now the carcuffle has to do with whether the cheese manufacturers are accepting this or not, and whether the supermarkets are selling or not selling, or removing or not removing the cheeses that are not 100% milk. So again, this does not mean that you shouldn't go out and buy cheese at the supermarket. They're not going to cause you any disease. They're not bad. They simply are not being true to the label. And of course, the Federal Consumer Protection Agency has said all you have to do is fix your recipe or fix your manufacturing process so that you follow the guidelines, and your cheeses can be back in on sale. So nobody is cutting the cheese that we know of. I saw a comment earlier that said no cutting of the cheese during Coffee and Headlines, and you can be safely assured that there is no cheese cutting going on as far as I'm concerned. Luna, she is very well behaved. Luna, a cat. And speaking of cats, bad news for Viva Aerobús, who has been struggling a lot financially. They are in the brink of going bankrupt, and now they have misplaced a kitty cat. It turns out that this particular passenger purchased two plane tickets for Viva Aerobús to fly from Villahermosa to Guadalajara. One ticket was for her name is Brenda, and another ticket was for her little kitty cat called Miel, which means honey. So she had two tickets. She had two seats waiting for her, one for her kitty cat. As soon as she boarded on the plane, she was told that her kitty cat could not actually go on the plane. So they told her, we'll put your kitty cat in the cargo bin. Well, when she arrived at her destination, she went to look for the crate or the cage with the kitty cat on it, and the kitty cat was not in the cage. This, of course, made it to social media, which made a lot of people become very unhappy and started writing horrible things to the airline. And now the airline is challenged with trying to have a little kitty cat and returning this kitty cat to her rightful owner. Just bad news all around. Anthony Fauci urges Americans to reconsider Thanksgiving gatherings amid pandemic. And even though this is happening in the United States, I think this is an interesting moment for us and everyone to reconsider just what we're going to be doing during the holidays. It is quite probable that a lot of people are coming down here to Puerto Vallarta to have Thanksgiving, and it remains to be seen whether Thanksgiving special celebrations will take place the way they usually take place or whether the guidelines are going to be different. As you know, we look at the end of this month and then November and then December, we have all kinds of important holidays that we're all, sitting around wondering, what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen with Day of the Dead here, but we're starting to hear or read from news outlets of more and more Mexican cities that are planning on closing their cemeteries during the holiday. We know that we have the peregrinaciones in December, the pilgrimages for the Virgin of Guadalupe, and these usually involve a lot of people that congregate on the streets. We don't know if this is going to take place or not. So we are in this very uncomfortable wait and see period in which we really don't know exactly how the next 3 months are going to play out here in Puerto Vallarta. The best thing that we can do is just to wait and see how the news continue to unfold. The last headline that I have for you before we move into the weather and the leisurely stuff is more of a series of tips and guidelines that come from Huffington Post about 13 sanitizer mistakes that you are probably making. I know we are all hand sanitizer experts at this point, but it never hurts to take a quick look at whether we've been doing it right or wrong. I won't bother reading these for you right now because you're going to get them along with all the headlines that I'm going to share with you in the show notes today. Let me take a quick look at your comments before we move on to the weather, just to see where we're at. Oh dear, this is a sobering reminder. 75 days until the end of 2020. And so much stuff still has to happen, Lynn. Between elections elsewhere and holidays here and this and that and the other. It is interesting. It is interesting. We'll have to see what happens. Let's see. Logan is currently looking for a cost-effective replacement brand of cream cheese for my B&B. If anybody out there has a hearty endorsement, well, I don't know about a hearty endorsement, Logan, but there's generic brand Philadelphia cream cheese that you can buy at the supermarket. I don't know if that is what you're looking for. Dun, 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 dun. Let's see. Luna is wearing her earmuffs during this part of the broadcast. Don't worry about it. Imagine how sad to have your little kitty cat lost. When I adopted Luna, she arrived on a crate, and she had to fly on the cargo area. And of course, I was totally concerned about her. I can only imagine how loud it must have been for the poor baby, but she's still with me. Christine reports that there will be no Day of the Dead in San Miguel de Allende. Cemeteries are going to be closed only for families. Some cities are only allowing 2 people per family to enter. But again, we're going to have to wait and see exactly how things are going to be unfolding here in Puerto Vallarta. Thank you very much for that comment, and I'm very happy that you're having a good time. And with that said, let us hop onto the weather and see what is going to happen in the next few days. Well, we can see where Carrot Weather's political views are, because the snarky comment of the day is suburban meatbags, will you please like me? No further comment necessary. It is 27 degrees Celsius, feels like 31. It is 81 degrees Fahrenheit. Humidity is up again in 87%. There's only a 1% chance of rain at this very moment. And as we reported yesterday, it will be humid and partly cloudy today and tomorrow and Saturday as well. So very little change in the weather, Unfortunately, we're all waiting for the weather to change. It'll happen just about any day. Um, Carol is right. Mexico needs a term, and that's the problem. We are a country that hasn't reached that point. Up till now, Carol, everything that you buy is called queso, and we haven't been concerned as a society as to whether it's 100% queso or sort of queso or semi kinda, sort of kinda queso. But now that the government is trying to bring this all together under legal guidelines, that's where the manufacturers are all getting um, frumpy. So we'll have to see how our society and our culture and our manufacturers continue to adapt. Um, Moving on to, I have four useless headlines to share with you, but I'm going to share them with you nonetheless. Oh, good Spanish. Sean says it should be called maybe queso or tal vez queso. I love that. I love that. I think I'm going to go to supermarket today and buy some maybe queso for an omelette that I want to prepare later on this today. Moving on to headlines. The people that were grinding on the transparent pool at Mantamar have made international headlines. This is now featured in Towel Road, which is a very important source of news related to the LGBTQ community. And of course, they picked up the news from the Mazatlan Post. I don't know that that's good or bad. It's just interesting that these news are now everywhere, darn it. We had two influencers in the city. Let's hope that these two influencers who came from the United States will be better equipped to well promote our city. These were actually Dylan Efron, who is the brother of Hollywood actor Zac Efron, and Will Dasovich, who is a U.S. Filipino blogger and television personality. They are in the region. They have been shooting all these photographs with gorgeous babes and whatnot. Not to mention, we had to do this full day hike without shoes. Oh, you poor baby. Ay, cosita. A hike without shoes. See, that deserves a Mexican cosita. But it is nice to see that these people are in town. Hopefully, whatever they do will serve some useful promotional purpose for our city. Now, I have two things that have nothing to do with us, but I'm going to share them anyway because I thought they were absolutely fascinating. A warning. The first one has to do with spiders or arachnids. Arachnids, where is the accent in that word? I don't know if it's in the first or second or third syllable, but some of the fun things that YouTube sent my way in the last couple of days include this video that features a clump of daddy longlegs. All those things that you see is a bunch of daddy longlegs, which are spider-like creatures. They are arachnids, but they're not spiders because they're not venomous. So anyhow, this was filmed in Ajijic. And if you watch this video, I'm not going to show it because we don't want to get YouTube on our case. It is fascinating how this furry thing just becomes a shitload of spiders. And I thought it was amazing that this happened in our nearby Ajijic, which is a very popular community with English-speaking residents and whatnot. So I'm going to give you the link for this so that you can enjoy it at your leisure. The final thing that I want to share is a little bit of a music moment that I have to explain. This has to do with... Oh, that is funny. I'm sorry, let me put this up on the screen. Thank you. Oh my God, Sean, you're on a roll. Those spiders are not being responsible. Absolutely true. Oh my God, I think I need to cough. You made me cough. Hold on. I'm sorry about that. I'm back. Anyhow, fails. Okay, so we're watching television, we're watching the Olympics, we're watching the gymnasts doing their flip-flops, and all of a sudden somebody falls down funny, and we go, oh my God, that was a fail. Well, fails happen, and they happen in all kinds of arenas, and they happen in classical music as well. Let me set up the stage, no pun intended. This happened at the International Tchaikovsky Competition last year. The Tchaikovsky Competition is a classical music competition held every 4 years in Moscow and St. Petersburg in Russia. And it is for pianists and violinists and cellists between 16 and 32 years of age. And it is one of the most important competitions in the world. Like, if you win it, you are guaranteed a record contract and touring and this and that and the other. Well, last year, the final round was going on the 25th of June, and the Chinese competitor Tian Shu-an was supposed to play two pieces. The first one was Tchaikovsky's Piano Concerto No. 1 and the Rhapsody on a Theme by Paganini by Rachmaninoff, and secondly. So he was going to play the Tchaikovsky first and then the Rachmaninoff. But there was a problem. The musicians were given their scores in the wrong order. The conductor was given the score in the wrong order. So the musicians got on stage and the conductor got on stage and they made an announcement that said, well, we're going to begin with the Rhapsody on a Theme by Paganini. But the pianist did not understand the language because he did not speak Russian. So he sat down at the piano. He was ready to play the Tchaikovsky, which starts with the orchestra doing this big dan, 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 and then the piano responds with a big chord. And then the orchestra repeats that again. Dan, 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 piano, dan, 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 piano. Okay, so that's how the Tchaikovsky begins, but that's not how the Rachmaninoff begins. The Rachmaninoff begins with the orchestra doing this daga, daga, dan, dan, and the piano responds with a boom. Anyhow, if you know these pieces, you don't need to hear my sound effects, but I'm getting to the nuts of this story. So, pianist comes in, he sits at the piano, the orchestra starts playing the Tchaikovsky, and the pianist misses the very first note. He's supposed to respond to the orchestra when the orchestra goes daga daga dan dan boom. And instead, he gets all messed up and he goes daga daga dan dan boom bam. So it was horrible. And in the video, I'm going to play you a little bit of this. I hope I don't get in trouble with YouTube. The poor pianist keeps looking at the conductor, hoping that the conductor realizes that he made a mistake and hopefully will stop the orchestra so that they can begin again. But this doesn't happen. So the poor piano player ends up looking like a bruised dog or something. So let me switch over to this other view. And there it is. And let me start this. And I'm going to play just a few seconds of this. He's waiting. He signals that he's ready by looking at the conductor here. But the conductor begins with the wrong piece. And the pianist misses his first note, and then he continues to make this horrible look on his face. It is sad, 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 so very sad. And of course, this will mean nothing to you if you don't know the pieces of music, but it is fascinating to watch. It is sad because you know that he's going to play that Rhapsody on a Theme by Paganini, which lasts like 28 minutes, knowing that his very first note was wrong. What ended up happening in the competition, just in case you're wondering, is that of course, there was a huge dispute, and the organizers of the competition apologized. They were very upset that this had happened. They gave the piano player the opportunity to be able to repeat the program in the proper order, and he refused, and he was given a special prize for being so courageous and going on with his program despite what happened. And that is, as Brian Simpson has properly described, a musician's nightmare. It happens. And the good thing in this particular case is that the piano player was able to recover. And with that said, let me take a quick look at your final comments and we can go on with our merry day looking to buy sorta cheese. Let's see. Spiders will give us nightmares. I'm sorry to hear that. Please don't have nightmares on my behalf. we need to keep building the immune system, keep us laughing. You know, I'm happy to make you laugh because you make me laugh, and when we laugh together, um, it's a good thing. And Steve, I am going to totally disagree with you, and that's okay. We can have different opinions. There are a lot of influencers that are jerks, but I think there are a lot of people that are in the position to influence that do a real great job. I think we see a lot of jerk influencers in social celebrity type environments, but there are a lot of influencers, for example, and I see this, that that review cameras and electronic equipment, and because they have so many followers, they are a great way to get manufacturers to be able to modify their strategy on how to design their new products to better serve the public. And I, even though I don't like the label, I think to a certain degree, I am an influencer because I am here telling you what you should consider when you're being in Puerto Vallarta. I don't take offense from what you said, but I certainly don't feel like I am a jerk without a job with a social platform. I think I am a little bit more than that. With that said, I am going to leave you to have a wonderful day, and I hope that today will be a bright sunny day for you. Please stay happy, stay kind, stay calm, stay fed with semi-artificial cheese and whatever it is that you have in store for your diet for today. And hopefully, I will see you again tomorrow. Have a great day.